Humans gave Galactic Empire one ultimatum. Stay away from Earth. The stars above Earth had always looked quiet, distant, and harmless. For centuries, humans looked at them with wonder, fear, and hope. They built stories about visitors from the sky, about gods, monsters, and saviors. But when the first alien ships finally appeared, there were no myths left, only reality. The ships entered the edge of the solar system without warning. They were massive, dark shapes that bent light around them. Human telescopes saw them first, then satellites, then every deep space sensor Earth had hidden across the system. Within minutes, every major government knew the same truth. Humanity was no longer alone. There was panic at first, but it did not last long. Panic had been burned out of humanity by history. Earth had faced extinction many times before: plagues, wars, climate disasters, and weapons that could erase cities in seconds. Humans had learned one important lesson the hard way. Fear was useless unless it turned into action. Deep underground, inside facilities that officially did not exist, people went to work. These were not politicians or celebrities. They were engineers, analysts, scientists, and commanders who had spent their lives preparing for a moment no one believed would come so soon. Screens lit up with alien data. The ships did not respond to standard communication signals. They moved with calm confidence, as if they owned the space they traveled through. On one screen, a man with tired eyes watched the alien fleet slow near the outer planets. He had gray in his hair and scars on his hands from decades of work. He did not look surprised. "They're early," he said quietly. The people around him waited. When he spoke, they listened. Humanity had known this day would come. Long before the alien ships arrived, humans had discovered strange signals hidden in cosmic noise, patterns too clean to be natural. Warnings left behind by civilizations long gone. Some spoke of empires that spread like fire, consuming worlds, demanding obedience, erasing those who resisted. Earth had listened. Instead of shouting into space, humanity went silent. No loud broadcasts, no grand announcements. Humans hid their true progress behind outdated technology and political drama. They let the galaxy think Earth was young, divided, and weak. Meanwhile, they prepared. Now the Empire had come. The alien ships finally sent a signal. It was not a greeting. It was a declaration. The message carried symbols, sounds, and translated meaning all at once. This system now fell under the authority of the Galactic Empire. Earth was ordered to power down all weapons, transmit population data, and prepare for integration. Some people expected world leaders to argue, to beg, to threaten. None of that happened. The response came from a single, unified source. A calm human voice spoke, steady and clear. "This is Earth. You are not welcome here. Leave now. Stay away from our planet." That was it. No insults, no fear, no explanation. Across the alien fleet, confusion spread. No species had ever spoken to the Empire like that. Worlds usually pleaded or surrendered. Some tried to fight and were erased. But this message was different. It was not emotional. It was not proud. It was final. On Earth, people watched the transmission replay again and again. Some held their breath. Some prayed. Others clenched their fists. No one knew if the ultimatum was real or a bluff. The man with gray hair watched the alien ships carefully. He noticed something most others missed. The Empire's formation shifted slightly after the message. It was small, but it mattered. "They heard us," he said, "and they didn't like it." The Galactic Empire did not leave. Instead, smaller craft detached from the main fleet. Scout drones moved inward, scanning planets, moons, and stations. They acted like Earth's message never happened. Humanity had expected this. The first drone crossed an invisible boundary near the orbit of Jupiter. Nothing happened for 3 seconds. Then it vanished. No explosion, no debris. One moment it existed, the next it was gone, erased as if it had never been there. A second drone followed, then a third. All disappeared. Alarms rang inside the alien ships. Sensors reported impossible data, space-time fluctuations with no known cause. The Empire's scientists demanded explanations that no one could give. On Earth, the room underground remained calm. "Phase 1 confirmed," a technician said. The man nodded. "Send the second message." This time, the transmission carried more detail. The voice explained that Earth had detected the fleet long before it arrived, that the drones were not destroyed but removed, that humanity did not want war, but the warning was clear. "This is your second notice. Do not approach Earth. Turn back now." The Empire responded with silence. Minutes passed. Then the alien fleet advanced again, slowly, deliberately, as if daring humans to stop them. On the Empire's flagship, commanders debated. They believed humans had found a clever trick, nothing more. No single planet could challenge the Empire's technology. Fear had always broken resistance in the end. They authorized a demonstration. A single weapon fired, aimed not at Earth but at empty space between planets. A beam of energy powerful enough to crack a moon burned through the void. The galaxy expected Earth to surrender. Instead, nothing happened. No reply, no retreat. Humanity waited. On Earth, the man leaned forward. "They chose their path," he said softly. The alien fleet prepared a second shot. They never fired it. Systems across every Imperial ship began to fail at once. Not violently, not dramatically. Power drains, weapon locks, communication delays. The ships were not under attack in any way they understood. Human technology moved quietly. Artificial intelligences far older than public knowledge calculated millions of outcomes every second. Defensive systems wrapped Earth in layers of protection no alien sensor could fully see. Humanity had not built walls. They had built rules into reality itself. Inside one Imperial ship, a commander slammed a clawed hand against a console. "What is happening?" he demanded. No one answered. Another drone launched toward Earth in desperation. It vanished instantly. Back on Earth, the man finally stood. "They still don't understand," he said. He knew why. The Empire saw strength only in numbers and destruction. Humans had learned something else. Survival was not about crushing enemies. It was about making sure enemies never had the chance to touch you. Earth had drawn its line long ago. Now the galaxy was learning where it was. The stars above Earth still looked quiet. But for the first time in history, they were afraid of humans. Silence spread through space like a held breath. The Galactic Empire's fleet remained in formation, but the confidence that once defined it had begun to crack. Systems that had never failed were now unreliable. Sensors contradicted each other. Time stamps drifted out of alignment. Nothing was broken in an obvious way, yet nothing worked as it should. Inside the flagship, commanders argued in low, tense voices. They demanded answers from their scientists, their engineers, their tactical minds. The answers did not come. Every model they ran ended in uncertainty. The humans had not attacked in any way the Empire understood. That frightened them. The Empire had conquered by force for so long that it had forgotten how to deal with restraint. When a world fought back, it was crushed. When it surrendered, it was absorbed. Earth had done neither. Earth had simply refused. On the outer edge of the solar system, the fleet halted again. No order had been given to stop. The ships simply could not move forward. Engines responded slowly, as if pushing against something thick and invisible. A message arrived. It did not force itself through Imperial systems. It waited patiently, like a knock on a closed door. When the Empire finally allowed it through, the same calm human voice spoke again. "You are experiencing limited restrictions. This is intentional. It is temporary. You are not under attack. This is your final warning. Turn back now." The message ended. Some commanders demanded immediate retaliation. Others hesitated. The older ones, those who had survived many campaigns, felt a deep unease. This was not how weak civilizations behaved. On Earth, the underground facilities remained active but quiet. No celebration, no relief, just focus. Humanity knew the most dangerous moment was not the first contact, but what came after. Pride could push an enemy to do foolish things. Analysts studied every movement of the alien fleet. Patterns emerged. The Empire relied heavily on centralized command structures. Orders flowed downward. Initiative was discouraged. That made control easy during conquest, but it also created blindness. Humans had built the opposite. Decentralized systems, independent decision-making, layers of redundancy. If one part failed, another adapted. Humanity had learned that lesson through centuries of internal conflict. A senior strategist reviewed the data and spoke to the room. "They're waiting for us to blink." "We won't," someone replied. The strategist nodded. "Good, because if we do, they'll come harder." Above Earth, satellites shifted positions, not in obvious ways. Just enough to change angles, to adjust invisible fields, to remind the Empire that humans were still watching. On the Imperial flagship, a decision was made. They would test Earth's resolve one last time. A cluster of unmanned probes was launched toward the inner system, faster and more aggressively than before. They did not follow predictable paths. They scattered, attempting to overwhelm whatever defense humans were using. For a brief moment, some Imperial commanders felt hope. Then the probe slowed, not stopped, slowed, as if space itself had become thick like water. One by one they faded from sensors, slipping out of reality without violence or noise. The Empire's fear deepened. This was not destruction, it was control. Humanity sent another transmission, this time broader, reaching not just the fleet but the surrounding space. The message was translated automatically by systems the Empire did not remember authorizing. We are aware of your tactics. We understand your history. We know how you expand. We are not impressed. That single sentence struck harder than any weapon. The Empire had built its image carefully. Fear was its greatest tool. To be unimpressed was unthinkable. Inside the Imperial Council chambers, far from Earth, emergency signals arrived. Reports were fragmented, confused, and alarming. A frontier fleet was stalled by a single planet, not destroyed, not defeated in battle, simply held in place. Some council members accused the fleet of incompetence. Others suspected rebellion or sabotage. But a few listened carefully to the data. These few realized something terrifying. If humans could do this openly, then there was much they were not showing. Back near Earth, time passed slowly. Hours turned into a full rotation of the planet. The alien fleet remained trapped at the edge of invisible boundaries. Humanity waited. The man with gray hair stood alone for a moment, staring at a projection of the solar system. He remembered the early days when people laughed at the idea of preparing for aliens, when budgets were cut, when secrecy was questioned. Now none of that mattered. They still haven't turned back, someone said quietly. They will, the man replied, or they won't. Either way, this ends today. The Empire made its final choice. A high-ranking commander ordered a focused strike not on Earth itself, but on a human listening post near the asteroid belt. The target was small, lightly armed, and distant from the planet. The Empire believed this would send a message without crossing the ultimate line. The strike never landed. The energy beam bent, twisted, and dispersed into harmless light, like a shadow dissolving at sunrise. The listening post remained untouched. Humanity responded immediately. For the first time, human ships appeared. They did not emerge from Earth. They did not come from hidden bases or known routes. They appeared around the Imperial fleet as if they had always been there, quiet and still. They were smaller than Imperial warships, sleek, simple. No visible weapons, no threatening displays, just presence. Imperial sensors screamed warnings, threat assessments overloaded. These ships did not match any known design or energy signature. A human transmission followed. "This is not escalation," the voice said. "This is clarification." The human ships moved slowly through the fleet, passing close to massive Imperial vessels without fear. Where they passed, systems stabilized, power returned, weapons unlocked. Then, just as calmly, the human ships disabled them again. The message was clear. Humans could give control back and take it away. Panic spread through the Empire's ranks. Some crews begged their commanders to retreat. Others froze, unable to act. The flagship's commander finally ordered a full withdrawal. Engines strained as the fleet turned away from Earth. This time, the invisible resistance eased. Space released them. As the last Imperial ship crossed the boundary, human vessels vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. One final message echoed through space. "Remember this moment. Earth does not seek enemies, but we will never accept masters." The fleet fled into the dark. On Earth, no one cheered, no one relaxed, because humanity knew the truth. Empires did not forget humiliation. And this was only the beginning. The Imperial fleet did not stop retreating until the stars of the Sol system were far behind them. Only when the last traces of Earth's invisible boundaries faded did the ships slow and regroup. Damage reports flooded every channel. No hulls were broken, no crew members were lost, yet the fleet felt as if it had survived a disaster. Nothing like this had ever happened before. On the flagship, the atmosphere was heavy with shame and confusion. Officers avoided eye contact. Commanders replayed recordings again and again, searching for mistakes. The Empire had not been defeated in battle, but it had been exposed. Its power had been questioned, not just by one planet, but by the galaxy itself. The commander of the fleet stood alone in the observation chamber, staring into open space. For the first time in his long career, he did not know what to report. Back on Earth, the tension did not fade with the retreat. Humanity knew better than to believe the danger was over. The Empire had been pushed back, not broken. Pride wounded at that level always returned with greater force. In underground centers and orbital stations, human analysts worked without rest. They studied every fragment of data collected during the encounter. Patterns in Imperial behavior, command delays, reaction times, cultural assumptions hidden in their decisions. One conclusion became clear. The Empire had never faced resistance that refused to play its game. Humanity had not challenged Imperial strength directly. They had made strength irrelevant. The man with gray hair sat with a small group of leaders from different nations. Titles meant little here. What mattered was experience and clarity. "They will not forgive this," one woman said quietly. "They will regroup, they will adapt." "Yes," the man replied, "but so will we." Above Earth, deep space sensors picked up unusual activity. Not a fleet, not an attack, something else. Information, signals spread across the galaxy, rumors carried by traders, scouts, and minor powers. The story of Earth traveled faster than any ship. A single planet had stopped the Empire, not with destruction but with denial. Some dismissed it as exaggeration, others felt fear. A few felt hope. On an industrial world near Imperial space, a merchant captain listened carefully as dock workers whispered about humans, about invisible walls and silent ships, about an empire forced to retreat. "Impossible," someone said. "Everything is impossible until it happens," another replied. Within the Empire's core systems, the Council gathered in emergency session. The fleet commander delivered his report. He spoke plainly, knowing lies would be uncovered. Earth possessed technology beyond Imperial understanding. Not superior firepower, but superior control. The humans did not seek territory or tribute. They wanted isolation, and they had the ability to enforce it. The chamber erupted in argument. Some demanded total war. They insisted no planet, no matter how advanced, could stand against the full might of the Empire. Others urged caution. If Earth had shown only a fraction of its power, then a direct assault could end in catastrophe. The debate revealed a deeper fear. If Earth existed, then how many others were hiding? Back on Earth, humanity watched the galaxy shift its attention. Unknown probes appeared at extreme distances, observing carefully, never crossing the invisible line. Human systems tracked them all. The decision was made. Humanity would not expand. They would not announce themselves further. But they would send one controlled signal beyond the Sol system. Not a threat. A statement. The transmission was released quietly into known trade routes and communication relays. It was simple and factual. Earth was protected. Earth did not seek conflict. Earth would respond to violations decisively. Any attempt to control, invade, or exploit the planet would fail. No boasting, no secrets revealed, just truth. Reactions varied across the galaxy. Some minor species marked Earth as forbidden and moved on. Others adjusted trade routes to avoid human space entirely. A few watched with curiosity rather than fear. The Empire watched with anger. Imperial engineers worked desperately to understand what had happened. They dissected recordings. They simulated human defenses. Every attempt failed. The human technology did not behave like weapons. It behaved like rules imposed on reality. That realization shook the foundations of Imperial doctrine. For centuries, the Empire believed dominance came from bigger fleets and stronger weapons. Humans had shown a different path: control without conquest, defense without destruction. This idea was dangerous. On Earth, preparations continued. Humanity did not relax its defenses. Instead, they refined them. Boundaries were reinforced. Detection systems expanded. Response times shortened. But something else changed too. For the first time in history, humanity was unified by something external, not fear of itself, but responsibility. Earth had become a line the galaxy could not cross. The man with gray hair walked through a quiet corridor, listening to reports through an implant. He paused near a viewport showing Earth below, blue, white, and alive. "They will test us again," a voice said through the channel. "I know," he replied, "and when they do, we will answer the same way." Far beyond human space, an Imperial research station ran an unauthorized experiment. A single probe, stripped of all weapons and signatures, was launched toward the Sol system. Its mission was observation only. The probe reached the outer boundary. It stopped, not destroyed, not detected publicly. It simply could not move forward. Every attempt to adjust course failed. Data streamed back to the station until the connection ended abruptly. The message was clear. Even curiosity was controlled. The Empire began to understand the scale of its mistake. Earth was not just defended. It was sovereign in a way the Empire could not challenge without rewriting its understanding of power. Other civilizations noticed too. A coalition of small, oppressed worlds began quiet discussions. Not about rebellion, about survival, about learning from humans without provoking the Empire. Humanity never answered those messages. Silence was part of their strength. Weeks passed, then months. No Imperial ships returned, but tension remained like a storm on the horizon. The man with gray hair aged visibly during that time. He knew peace was fragile, but he also knew something irreversible had happened. The Empire had blinked. And once fear entered an empire's heart, it never truly left. The galaxy adjusted its maps, its politics, its expectations. Earth remained quiet, watching, waiting, ready. The galaxy did not return to normal after the Empire retreated. It only pretended to. Trade routes shifted slowly at first, then faster. Ships altered their courses by instinct whenever long-range sensors hinted at Saul's direction. Star maps updated with quiet warnings that were never officially announced. Earth was no longer unknown. It was something far more unsettling. It was a boundary. Inside the Galactic Empire, silence became dangerous. The council chambers were full, yet nothing was resolved. Power had always come from certainty, and certainty was gone. The Empire ruled because everyone believed it was unstoppable. Earth had cracked that belief without firing a single killing shot. Some council members argued that the fleet commander should be punished. Others argued that blaming him would not erase what had happened. The recordings existed. The data was real. Every attempt to dismiss it only made the fear worse. The Empire faced a truth it had avoided for generations. There were limits to its power. On Earth, the mood was different, not triumphant, not fearful, but alert. Humanity understood restraint. The defenses remained active, but life continued. Cities breathed. Oceans moved. Children went to school under skies that looked unchanged. That normality was deliberate. Humans knew that showing calm was its own message. Deep underground, meetings continued. The man with gray hair listened as analysts spoke. Reports showed increased surveillance activity far beyond human space. The Empire was not approaching, but it was watching closely. "They're looking for weakness," someone said. "They won't find it," the man replied. "Not because we are perfect, but because we are patient." He had learned that patience was a weapon few empires could wield. Far away, inside a neutral star system, representatives from several smaller civilizations gathered in secret. These worlds had lived under imperial shadow for centuries. None dared speak openly against the Empire, but Earth's stand had changed something inside them. They talked about humans in careful tones, about how Earth had not asked for allies or demanded loyalty. How it had simply said no and made that word absolute. One representative said quietly, "If they can refuse, maybe the Empire can be resisted." Another answered, "Or maybe Earth is the exception. We don't know the cost." That uncertainty spread across the galaxy. The Empire decided to act not with fleets but with diplomacy. This was rare. Negotiation had always followed conquest, never preceded it. A formal envoy was prepared. No weapons, no threats, just words. The message was sent toward Earth, requesting dialogue. Humanity did not respond immediately. Days passed. The Empire waited. For the first time in its long history, it waited for a single planet to answer. On Earth, the request was discussed carefully. Some argued it was a trap. Others believed refusing could provoke escalation. The man with gray hair listened to every side. "They want to understand us," he said finally, "not because they respect us, but because they fear what they don't understand." "So do we talk?" someone asked. "Yes," he said, "but on our terms," the reply was sent. Earth would allow a limited conversation. No ships would enter the solar system. No representatives would approach the planet. Communication would be conducted remotely, monitored, and controlled. The Empire accepted. Across secure channels, the first true conversation between humanity and the Galactic Empire began. The Imperial envoy spoke carefully, choosing words that carried authority without insult. They spoke of misunderstanding, of caution, of mutual interest in avoiding conflict. The human response was calm and direct. "There is no misunderstanding," the human voice said. You entered our space without consent, you ignored our warning, you tested our defenses, we responded. This is not a conflict. It is a boundary. The envoy paused before answering. The Empire does not recognize boundaries it did not establish. You do now, the human replied. That sentence echoed through Imperial channels long after the transmission ended. The talks continued over several sessions. The Empire tried different approaches: reason, flattery, subtle pressure. Each failed. Humans did not argue, they did not threaten. They simply repeated the same position in different words. Earth would not be ruled, Earth would not be monitored, Earth would not be integrated. The Empire could leave peacefully and mark the system as restricted, or it could test the boundary again and face consequences it still did not understand. The envoy realized something unsettling. Humans were not negotiating, they were informing. Inside the Empire, opposition grew. Some factions called for a full invasion to restore dominance. Others warned that such an action could shatter the Empire beyond repair. Military projections were run again and again. Every simulation ended the same way: unknown losses, unknown outcomes, unacceptable risk. Earth had become a variable the Empire could not control. Reluctantly, the Council made a decision that would have been unthinkable a year earlier. The Sol system would be officially designated restricted space. No Imperial ships would enter without express invitation. Surveillance would cease. Trade routes would reroute permanently. The declaration was prepared quietly without ceremony. When the announcement reached the wider galaxy, reactions were immediate: shock, disbelief, awe. The Empire had drawn a line around a single planet and stepped back. On Earth, the news was received without celebration. Humanity had learned that victory did not always come with joy. Sometimes it came with responsibility. The man with gray hair watched Earth's orbital defenses slowly shift to a lower alert state. Not off, never off, just ready instead of tense. They backed down, someone said. Yes, he replied, but remember why? Not because we are harmless, because we are certain. That certainty spread quietly through human culture. Not arrogance, not dominance, confidence born of preparation and restraint. The galaxy continued to watch. Other empires adjusted their strategies, some reconsidered expansion. Others doubled down on control, fearful of similar resistance. Earth did nothing. That was the most unsettling part. No alliances formed, no demands were made, no attempt to reshape the galaxy. Humanity stayed home. And in doing so, proved that power did not need to shout to be heard. In distant Imperial archives, the encounter with Earth was classified under a new category. Not enemy, not ally, but limit. The Empire had found something it could not conquer. And the galaxy would never see power the same way again. Time passed, and the galaxy learned to live with a new truth. The Sol system remained quiet. No fleets approached. No probes crossed the invisible line. Star maps across known space now showed a subtle mark around Earth's home, a mark that carried no explanation but demanded respect. Traders avoided it. Explorers spoke of it in lowered voices. Even pirates, who feared nothing else, altered their paths without argument. Earth had become a rule. Inside the Galactic Empire, the decision to restrict Sol space never fully settled. Some officials accepted it as necessary. Others saw it as a wound that would never heal. The Empire continued to expand elsewhere, but something had changed in its behavior. Campaigns slowed. Recon missions increased. Questions were asked that had never been asked before. What if there were more worlds like Earth? What if power no longer meant control? These questions weakened the Empire more than any weapon. On Earth, life continued in ordinary ways. Cities grew. Technology advanced openly now, though still carefully. Humanity did not reveal everything it had, but it no longer pretended to be helpless. The balance between secrecy and honesty shifted toward confidence. Children learned history that included the day the stars came close and were told to leave, not as a story of fear, but as a lesson in choice. Humanity had chosen to stand still instead of kneeling or striking blindly. The man with gray hair retired quietly. He did not give speeches or write books. Others took his place, trained in the same discipline of patience and clarity. He spent his days walking near the ocean, listening to waves that did not care about empires. He knew his work was done. Far beyond human space, a small civilization once trapped under imperial oversight made a bold decision. They did not rebel. They did not attack. They sent a message, not to Earth directly, but into open channels. "We choose independence," the Empire noticed. It considered sending a fleet, then it hesitated. Earth did not intervene. No message came from Sol. No human ships appeared. But the memory of invisible boundaries and silent control lingered in every imperial calculation. The Empire chose negotiation instead of force. Across the galaxy, this moment passed quietly, but it mattered. It proved that Earth's stand had changed more than one outcome. It had changed expectations. Humanity watched from a distance, learning something important. Influence did not require action. Sometimes it required restraint. Years later, an imperial historian recorded the shift in a private archive. He wrote that the age of unstoppable expansion ended not with a great war, but with a refusal. A single planet that did not ask to be feared or admired. A planet that simply said no and made that word real. The record was sealed. On Earth, scientists expanded deep space observation, not for conquest, but for understanding. They mapped unknown regions. They studied ancient ruins left by civilizations that had burned bright and vanished. Humanity saw its own possible futures reflected in those silent remains. They chose caution. One day, a signal arrived at the edge of the Sol system, not from the Empire, not from any known power. It was weak, fragmented, and clearly accidental. A ship in distress far from any safe route. Human systems detected it instantly. The question arose, do they allow entry? Debate followed, not fear-driven but careful. The rule had always been clear, stay away from Earth. But the rule had also been humane. Humanity did not destroy the helpless. A decision was made. The boundary opened slightly, just enough. A small, damaged vessel drifted inside, guided safely to a distant repair zone far from Earth itself. The crew was frightened, expecting destruction. Instead, they were stabilized, repaired, and sent on their way. No demands were made, no questions asked. When the ship left, the boundary closed again. The message spread quickly. Earth was not cruel, it was firm. That distinction mattered. The Galactic Empire observed this event with great interest. Some feared it showed weakness. Others saw it as something worse, moral authority. Earth had power and did not abuse it. This made it impossible to justify attacking them without appearing monstrous to the rest of the galaxy. The Empire understood that any future conflict with humanity would not just be military, it would be ideological. As decades passed, humanity never left its system in force. No colonies were planted beyond Sol. No flags were raised in distant stars. Humans explored, observed, and studied, but always returned home. The galaxy waited for expansion that never came. Earth did not need it. The legend of the Ultimatum became refined with time. Some said humans threatened to destroy the stars. Others claimed Earth held weapons that could erase reality. Most of these stories were wrong. The truth was simpler. Humans had learned to protect what they loved without needing to take what belonged to others. That idea was dangerous. On the anniversary of the first contact, a quiet moment of reflection was held on Earth. No ceremony, no broadcast, just remembrance among those who understood the weight of what had happened. The sky looked the same as it always had. But humanity no longer looked at it as something unreachable. It was simply space, and space now respected them. Far away in Imperial space, a young officer studied old records of the Sol encounter. He noticed something others missed. Humans had never once claimed superiority. They had never declared themselves stronger. They had only insisted on choice. He closed the file with unease. Empires rose by denying choice. They fell when choice returned. The galaxy continued to change, slowly, carefully. Power shifted from force to caution. From conquest to boundaries, from fear to calculation. Earth remained quiet at the center of it all, not ruling, not hiding, simply existing, defended by certainty. The ultimatum was never repeated. It did not need to be, because every civilization now knew the meaning behind it. Stay away from Earth, not as a threat, but as a fact written into the future of the stars.